Hi everyone, this is Gaurav. So welcome to my study channel, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at if-then-else statement in Python. Before I start writing any queries and take you through the syntax, let's first of all understand what happens as a part of if-then-else condition. So let's say that if you want the system to check for a certain condition, and if that condition is satisfied, then you would like to execute a certain set of a code. And if that condition is not satisfied, then you would like to execute different set of a code. Then that's where you will be using something like if then else statement. So the way to do that is going to be that first of all, after writing if, you will first of all specify what condition you would like to check, and then you will give the set of commands that you would like the system to execute. And then similarly, you will also write else, and then afterwards you will write the set of commands that you want the system to execute. So let me first of all write a sample query to better understand this. Okay, so let me just start with a is equal to 2 and b is equal to 1. Okay, so what's really happening here? First of all, we assigned two variables with values 2 and 1, which is a and b. Then the system went ahead to the next line, which is you are checking if a is greater than b or not. Now in this case it is, so that's why it will go ahead and execute all the codes that you have after this line. So as you can see that I have provided some sort of an indentation here, and that is a functionality of Python, which is if you would like to go ahead and execute a set of codes as a part of a subcode in that main code itself, then you will have to provide some sort of a indentation. Now, you don't have to do it manually. So in any of the Python editor, like for instance, I'm using Jupyter Notebook. So here by default, it is provided the moment I wrote this colon statement. So I can now after this, I can go ahead and let's say I want to print the same thing 3 different times. So you can go ahead and do that. And as you can see that a is greater than b is printed 3 different times. So this is an important functionality because oftentimes when you are writing any queries, then after checking a certain conditions, you would like to execute a set of a commands and not just like one line of a command. Now, one of the important thing that you would have seen here is that I have not specified anything as a part of else. That's because else is an optional statement, so you don't necessarily have to always provide. However, if you do want to provide, then you can definitely go ahead and do that. So let's say so you can go ahead and do that. And in this case, let's say a is 2 and b is 1. So a is greater than b. But if the value is other way around, which is a is 1 now and b is 2, and if you execute that, so now you can see that a is not greater than b, which is this part of the code is being executed. So that's pretty much it for if then else statement. However, there are some additional level of functionalities that is being provided as a part of a Python if then else statement. So the first thing is nested if. What it means is that let's say if you want to, usually whenever you will be writing a code, you will see that things are not as simple. It's not like you will be checking just simply one condition, but essentially what will happen is you will check one condition, then you will move on to the next one and the next one and so on. So if you're doing that, then in that case, you will have to write like multiple if then else statement one after another. So Python does provide this functionality as a part of your nested if. So we'll take a look at that. So we'll take the same example. Now the only thing is that let's say that we change the problem a little bit. So if you have two different numbers a and b, and if you want to compare them, then in that case, there's three different possibilities. So first one is that a is greater than b, second one is a is equal to b, and third one is that a is smaller than b. Now I want to know exactly which one is it, and the way to do that is going to be that you can go ahead and use something like a nested if. So let's take a look how we can do that. Let me just quickly write the code first. Okay, so let's quickly run this. Now let's say you have a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2. So you can see that a is smaller than b. You can make these two things equal as well. Let's say a is equal to 1, b is equal to 1. So you can see that a is, now the system shows that a is now equal to b. So the important thing to note here is that this entire piece of code, which is the next set of if and else statement, is nested. So there's an additional tab or additional space has been provided after writing this else code. And that is what your nesting is, which is now you can provide an additional layer of your if then else statement, which will be executed if and only if this condition is satisfied. Now let's say that you have 10 different conditions. So you have 10 different layers of if then else statement. So imagine if you have to write a query like that and sort of maintain it as well in a moving forward basis. In that case, it would become fairly difficult because then you will have to kind of imagine that you'll have to do the indentation 10 different times. So Python makes it a little bit easier by adding an additional command called elif, which is essentially a combination of else and if. So let's take a look at that. How will that work out? Let me just quickly write the query. Okay. So it's essentially the exactly same code. It's doing the same thing as this piece of a code, but the only difference now is that I don't have to go ahead and do the multiple indentation. So what's happening here is that first of all, system will check this part of the code and it will see if A is greater than B or not. And if it is, then it will go ahead and execute print statement here. If this statement is not satisfied, then it'll move on to the next part, which and then it will go ahead and check if A is equal to B or not. Now, the way to check two numbers in Python is that you will have to specify two equal to sign. But if you want to do any kind of a value assignment, then you have to use just one equal to sign. So if this condition is satisfied, then you will go ahead and print out A is equal to B. And if this condition is not satisfied, then you will print out, which is your else statement, that A is smaller than B. So this way, let's say that if you have multiple layers, now after this, if you want to have another layer, then you can go ahead and specify another elif. And you can do it multiple times if you want. So this way, what will happen is that it will go ahead and keep on checking one after another, and you don't have to do the multiple indentation. So that's pretty much it for if then else statement. And in a subsequent video, we'll be taking a look at some of the other things like do while statement, the case statement, etc. Now, one other thing that I do want to mention is that as we move forward, we'll be taking a look at pandas data frame. And over there, you will have some additional functionality which will help you do similar things, but you don't necessarily have to clearly call it out as like a if then else statement. So there's always an alternate way, 50 different ways of doing the same thing in Python. So thank you so much and have a beautiful day. And if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe.